Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Eagles Latest on Fan Arch. I'm your host, Blake McQueary, and it is officially Thursday. It is officially a countdown to the weekend. We are almost there, one day closer to week three, a matchup between the Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams, a rematch of last year's divisional round playoff game. Obviously, the snow game. A lot of people remember Saquon obviously was the story of that game. Um, but yeah, we have some things to talk about. Um, some good, some bad. We always get in the good and the bad. You know, the ugly, whatever you want to call it. But a few things. We're gonna open up first, just a few notes from practice before I get into my topics today. Not much news, but for starters, the Eagles offense was wearing white jerseys at practice. That indicates they will be wearing white on Sunday. Um, I think the Eagles offense, whatever color they wear that week, is what they are going with as a team. Um, Offense was wearing white, so they will be wearing white on Sunday. Devontae Smith practiced despite banging up his lower back against the Chiefs. If people remember that play, a deep shot on the sideline, went up for the ball and landed hard on his lower back, kind of his tailbone area. He practiced, which is a great sign for the Eagles. And huge news for the offense to add to that, Dallas Goedert returned to practice. That is very, very big news. Obviously, especially with the lack of blocking from the tight end group, what we've seen, the struggles from Grant Calcaterra. I covered that 2 episodes ago. So yeah, that's big news. Dallas Goedert back for the first day of practice on Wednesday, which are great signs for the Eagles. Now, first thing what we will get into is Jalen Hurts. His comments today, or Wednesday, opened up his presser with a long statement about the offense. And I'm going to read basically the full quote of what he said because there's some things to break down within it. Hurts said, basically talking about the offense, things like that. Quote, I think more importantly, just overall operation and how we function, how we flow, our synchronization. I think that I take accountability for a lot of it and just how we go out there because it's my job. My job to go out there and be the general, orchestrate everything, and ultimately make plays. And given the opportunities we had, I'm very critical of myself, of trying to make the worst of what's given to us. And so there's definitely some evolution that we could do. There's definitely some things that we can grow in. But I look inward on all of those things and just want to make the most of the opportunities that we do have. And when we're able to do that and you win and you have a lot to learn, you can be very critical of yourself on that. And that's something that I've done. So within the things that are within what we do in our system, if you will, just really operating at a high level and continue to challenge those around me with asking questions and trying to make sure we're all on the same page. So I think that's the most important thing. Again, operation, synchronization, being on the same page and going out there and playing our game. I think, too, a component of it is there's a template. So I think expectations are fair. Ultimately, it's about winning. But when we look at what we're capable of, we know what we're capable of. But given this new season, this new team, offensive leadership looking different, you grow into that. Now, basically a breakdown of his comments. I was a little shocked. Let me take that back, actually. I am not shocked at all. This is who Jalen Hurts is. This is absolutely who Jalen Hurts is. I mean, you in the quote there, if you caught it, kind of towards the beginning, he said, I'm very critical of myself. If you know Jalen Hurts and you follow Jalen Hurts, what he says within the media, things like that, he is very, very critical of himself. Absolutely. Very humble, very unselfish. So that's when I take that back on. I was surprised. Because that's who he is. That is who he is. He is a leader. He knows what it takes to be a successful leader of this team. of this offense, and that is kind of what he's doing in, explaining that process, explaining that mindset of, yeah, there's scrutiny. Point fingers are being pointed everywhere. But ultimately, he is taking that scrutiny upon himself. He is taking credit for it. Well, not credit. He is taking account for that. But he used the word template. The template is the dynamic football that they've displayed as an offense in the past. He said, basically there is a component and there's a template. So I think expectations are fair. That's, him using the word expectations. He is a guy, he also used, he used standard, I believe, once. I'm trying to find it in the quote. No, he didn't use standards, but he is a guy that used standards a lot. He uses that word a lot. And he talks about standards a lot. And I think him using that word expectations in this, he's acknowledging the fact that there are high expectations for this offense. He knows what is expected of them. And it's not just the standards that are inside of the facility and that are of the team. So I'm not surprised by Jalen Hurts' comments. I'm not surprised for him taking responsibility for the lackluster offense. I've talked about the offense plenty of times in the past few episodes, so go and check those things out. I think ultimately, everybody can be better. I think a lot of it is on Kevin Patullo as an offensive coordinator. I think a lot of it is on the blocking, the protection. But obviously, Jalen Hurts, being an unselfish guy, being the leader that he is, taking responsibility for those things. Now, we're going to move on to Jason Kelce, the former Eagles center and legend. He is coming to the aid of the tush push play. He has been on Twitter chirping at people for the past day. Yesterday, he took to Twitter, kind of made some tweets, things like that, giving his expert analysis on false starts and the play in general, because obviously he was a huge part in the birth of the tush push in his final years as an Eagle. Kelce said this on Twitter, captioning it with a clip from his New Heights podcast. He said, quote, "I love that the problem everyone has with the tush push this week has absolutely nothing to do with the actual pushing portion. Like banning the tush push doesn't even stop what they have an issue with from the play this last week. Eagles still could have done exactly what they did last week with it being a regular quarterback sneak. Officials being more stringent on players aligning in the neutral zone and false starts is the only way to stop what everyone has an issue with. And I get it. There were at last a couple from the game that were too early and should be called false starts. It is an extremely hard thing to officiate, and good players on both sides of the ball jump the snap and use the neutral zone to their advantage on multiple downs and plays throughout the game. Getting rid of the tush push will not stop the issue everyone is riled up about." He then had to say this when responding to someone who was saying false starts don't happen on just any other play. He said, quote, "You are out of your mind if you think players jumping the snap and lining up in the neutral zone doesn't happen on other plays. People complain about tackles leaving early on pass plays all the time. How much has Juwan Taylor done the exact same thing in his pass set? D linemen grab as much of the neutral zone as they can, especially on third down, and absolutely will jump the snap if they know it. Officiating the neutral zone and false starts is not solely a tush-push issue." Andrew Whitworth, he is a former LA Ram who the Eagles happen to be playing this Sunday, was even in support of Kelce's comments and the tush push. He said, basically responding to one of Kelce's tweets, "I agree. I think they just do what they have done to teams that use motions or quick snaps. Implement rules that help officiate it. Examples: fly wide receiver motions. You can't move towards the line of scrimmage as ball snaps. They miss that all the time. 2. No huddle quick shift teams. They emphasize you have to be still for a full count. Tush push. Be stricter with pre-snap alignment and false starts." I absolutely loved what Whitworth said. I love what Jason Kelce has been saying, obviously. But I loved what Whitworth said, pointing out being stricter with the pre-snap alignment. I think that is something that needs to be better. The refs absolutely have to officiate it better. Yes, it is a hard play to officiate, but they have to be better. That is their job to do so. I talked about it in the last 2 episodes. That is their job. They get paid to do those things, to call false starts. That is their job. That is what they are there to do, is implement the rules and make sure everyone is following them. So, and with the officiating, like what said, you have to be stricter with it in pre-snap alignment, or else it's just gonna keep happening. Like you have to be strict. You have to be implementive of those rules. You have to honor those rules. They get trained to officiate NFL games, and they get paid to do that. So that is their job to do those things. I think back to the fate of the tush push, because of the attention it has been receiving after last week's game, it's going to be banned next year. I don't think at this point in time there is anything that can be done to prevent that play from being banned. That is just how the game works. That is how things operate. People are talking about it. People are finally fed up about it and are mad about it, angry about it, whatever the case may be. And that is going to be the result, is the NFL obviously voting on it again, and I think ultimately it will be banned. I think, though, let's spice this up a little bit. The Eagles need to start running some fake tush pushes. Let's stir this whole pot up. Confuse people. Do it. Confuse people. I think maybe that could work if you run some fake tush pushes. Try to, who says, even if the play's banned, who says you can't be in the formation? Who says just because the play is banned does not mean you can be in tush push formation? Now that would confuse a lot of people. If they end up banning that play and the Eagles just start running fake tush pushes, that would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. I think for now, though, with it still being obviously something that you can do, that would even running fake tush pushes right now this season would still make people mad, and I love that. Good, do it, absolutely do it, absolutely do it. I mean, we've seen the Eagles run like 2 fake tush pushes. I want to see more fake tush pushes. I think it would be fun, especially with the discussions that are being had. Absolutely, absolutely. Moving on to Rams kryptonite. Saquon Barkley. I'm just going to say he has been the kryptonite for the Los Angeles Rams. Absolutely. In Barkley's last 2 games against the Rams, he's totaled 534 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is utter dominance. Utter dominance. In 2 weeks this season, Saquon Barkley has faced a heavy box. That is 7+ defenders. On 85% of his rushes in his career, he faces heavy boxes on 76.6% of rushes. The sample size is small, and the only time higher than this year's rate is 2020, when he only played 2 games. But when narrowing the data to the first 2 weeks of the season, this is the only other year than 2020 in which that rate is higher than 80%. Barkley said last week, quote, "You'd be a fool if you're going to let us walk into whatever stadium and your focal point is not going to be stopping the run." I absolutely love that he said that, because we're going to get into that in a second. Remember that he said that. It's also worth noting when Barkley rushed for a career high 255 yards against the Rams last season, he faced a heavy box on 88.5% of his rushes. He also had rushes of 72 yards and 70 yards. Barkley has kind of explained how heavy boxes can lead to home run type of plays, especially with his skill, kind of noting that when the box is stacked like that, when it's a heavy box, things like that, there's no one back there when you hit the right gaps. And being patient, and you have the speed that Saquon has, when those boxes are stacked and you can get away from those, like you said, it's a home run. It's a home run. long gone. Now, this is going to be something that's interesting to analyze on Sunday. Because clearly, obviously, the passing game, it hasn't been there for the Eagles so far. That has been the story that everyone has been talking about with this team, including me. I've talked about it for numerous episodes now since like last week. Um, that has been a story everyone else has been talking about as well. That has caused them to clearly lean heavy on the run game. This offense, it's also been very predictable. I've talked about that the past two episodes. I've brought the numbers. Under center, they ran the ball 96% of snaps. In pistol, they've ran it 91% of snaps. Those two formations right there, when the Eagles go in those formations, basically telling you that they are running the football. So, now, if you're the Rams, do you do what you've been doing and stack the box and risk Saquon doing what he has been doing to your defense as a franchise? Or do you force them to go and throw the football? That is the question that you have to ask yourself if you are the Los Angeles Rams, is you have to figure that out. What are you going to do to stop this offense? Are you going to focus on Saquon, focus on the run, or are you going to make Jalen Hurts throw the football, which is something the Eagles have not clearly done well so far this year? Now, moving on to the last thing that we have, a position breakdown. I'm going to compare the Eagles and Rams position groups just really quick, give my take on who I think has the better position group heading into Sunday's matchup. In terms of the quarterback position, this one was tough for me because they have Matthew Stafford. The Rams have Matthew Stafford. The Eagles have Jalen Hurts, obviously. Recently, in terms of quarterback, I think if you gather a few of the recent seasons, I think you go with Jalen Hurts. I don't think that's a debate. I think this season it's the Rams so far through two games. It's been Matthew Stafford. I mean, Hurts hasn't thrown the ball much, so that you start that there. I mean, Stafford basically almost threw for almost what Jalen Hurts has totaled through two games last week. So, I mean, this year you look at it, it's been Stafford through two games better. But overall, if you compile the last couple of seasons together, I would say it's Jalen Hurts. Running back, obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles. Kyron Williams is really good for the Los Angeles Rams. They had Blake McQueary, the backup, who was at Michigan a few years ago. But Saquon Barkley. That's that. The wide receiver room. That is another one that was a little tough for me. Puka and Devontae have shown that they can be one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. Matthew Stafford has absolutely revived Devontae Adams. Just his ball placement is so perfect throwing to Adams. It's genuinely nasty. It's genuinely nasty. I'm going to go with the Eagles on the wide receiver group. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have been one of the best duos for the past couple of years. Puka and Devontae are playing in their first season together. Their first two games have been pretty good, especially last game. Both totaled over 100 receiving yards. Both scored a touchdown. Both had 5+ receptions. But I'm going to go A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Tight end is the Eagles. Dallas Goedert is better than Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee is also, though, not a bad tight end. He's been consistent in the league the past couple of years. But Dallas Goedert is just a better receiving back. I think he blocks a little better than Higbee. Higbee might have him with the route running. Higbee can run some nice routes, but I'm gonna go with Dallas Goedert and the Eagles for the tight end position group. O-line is the Eagles. I mean, this is one of the best units in football. We've talked about it since the preseason that this is one of the best units in football. I have no doubt about that. It's the Eagles. Defensive line, the Eagles. Another one I talked about this defensive front and in this defensive line room last episode. It's the Eagles. Absolutely the Eagles. Linebacker, it's the Eagles. This is one of the best duos in the NFL right now, with a rookie in Jahad Campbell. And Nakobe Dean comes back after Sunday in 2 weeks. So, it's the Eagles. Defensive back, another position group that I went back and forth on. Emmanuel Forbes Jr. has been pretty good. A.J. Brown killed him the last time they matched up. I think Brown had like 10 receptions, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns on Forbes when he was in Washington. I'm going to go, because Quinyon Mitchell is such a bad man, I'm going to go with the Eagles. That is not, Adoree Jackson's not in that decision at all. I don't factor that in. I think just how bad of a man Quinyon Mitchell is, you give it to the Eagles. And safety, the Eagles. Reed Blankenship, Cooper DeJean, the exciting whites, some might say. I think they are a better duo. Makuba, obviously the rookie, he has shown that he is absolutely amazing. He's shown flashes that he is going to be a star. And he, as of right now, is in the running for defensive player or defensive rookie of the year. Absolutely. For sure. That is all we have for you guys today. As always, stay up to date with Eagles latest on Fan Arch. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.